Oh, Pedro, why, oh, why, oh, why? Now, I'm going to try and remain balanced around the whole Pedro Pascal drama that's cooking up currently online, and try to offer a more nuanced rather than get angry about it. And I've seen some rage headlines or clickbait headlines or whatever. But you'll hear my thoughts eventually anyway around the situation. So I guess cards on the table. I quite like Pedro Pascal, I think he's a really good actor. Who's been in quite a few things actually in the recent past. And I've really dug what he's done. I think, and I find him a really good screen presence with a good voice, etc., etc. And his acting ability, I've seen in Narcos and seen in a few things that he's been really good in. And there's nothing alarming or unearned about him as an actor. Excuse me, in my opinion. And I think part of the online backlash against him as an actor generally is that he's in quite a lot of things anyway. Like a lot of things. And that's credit to him for being, clearly a hardworking actor, and boy is he. He's in so many things, and he's being cast in even more as we've seen going forward. And credit to him for being that hardworking actor. But when someone is in everything gets released, or in every cast that gets announced, he's announced as part of the cast, and it's almost like a running joke now. And I've seen that, and I do echo those thoughts as well. I'm like, oh, he's in that as well. He's in that as well. Name a franchise he's not been in. He's been in DC now. He's been in Marvel. He's been in Star Wars. He's been in pretty much everything. And he, very recently he's been in Gladiator 2. He's going to be in the Fantastic Four. He was in the Wonder Woman 84 film. He was obviously the Mandalorian. And so many other projects. And I do remember, just to echo these thoughts, I do remember a similar thing happened to Jude Law. Jude Law, way back when, was suddenly in everything. He was in every movie that was released, and like Pedro, was sort of deemed the hardest working actor around or whatever. And over like a 2-3 year period, and people noticed and started to bite back at him in a similar way because he was in everything. And so I can sort of see the echoes there, and can relate it to someone like Jude Law and go, well, if he gets the work, he gets the work. It is what it is. But I can see how that can foster a resentment from fans who are like, well, he's in this as well, and there you go. So on to what he said and the comments that have done the rounds this week, or the headlines more so, where it's been reported that he's told essentially the president's supporters to go F themselves. That's the quote doing the rounds. That I've seen that headline everywhere, and it leads some sections of the media to cheer, and it leads some sections of the media to rail against him, and that's just the world we live in at the moment. So I guess let's watch his quotes rather than read them, and I think that's always probably better and adds more context, and so we can have a bit of a nuanced discussion about what it is and the ramifications of it. So here we go.
Don't let them win. Don't let them win. So keep telling the stories, and keep expressing yourself, and keep fighting to be who you are. And I don't know, fuck the people that try to make you scared, and fight back. I mean, it's obviously very scary for an actor who participated in a movie to sort of speak to issues like this. I want people to be safe and to be protected, and I want very much to live on the right side of history. And I'm an immigrant. My parents are refugees from Chile. I myself was a refugee. We fled a dictatorship, and I was privileged enough to grow up in the U.S. and after asylum in Denmark, and if it weren't for that, I don't know what would have happened to us. And so I stand by those protections.
So we've just seen the press conference that is being quoted from, and so I guess my thoughts on it. Well, he's clearly being asked a question there about the president. I don't think he brought it up, and we've just seen a quick clip from the Guardian website. That was the one that seemed to have the most footage to add context. And his question, so clearly he was asked a question about the president, and no doubt his relationship with the film industry, or the president's relationship with the film industry, the studios, etc. And amid reports that the studio heads have travelled to meet him at either Mar-a-Lago or elsewhere when he's been travelling to meet him, talk about tariff talks or the industry at large on America and impact to certain legislations that he's been brought in. And again, I don't want to make this political whatsoever. I'm just talking strictly from a film point of view, and obviously what Pedro has said. So he had a right to respond in the way he did because he was asked a question, and no doubt his personal story of him being a migrant who fled a country due to atrocities or controversies sound rationale without knowing too much about it. So I'll defend him there. He has every right to give a personal take, a personal point of view from what he went through. And so, yeah, he has every right to answer that question the way he did. So I don't think there's anything wrong with what he said with that regard. And he did answer that one pretty diplomatically, if I'm honest. He said, look, I was a migrant. I was what I was and made something of myself in America, and I love the country as a result. It's not condemning, it's not slighting. It's giving him personal take, which he can speak from a position of strength. So nothing wrong from my point of view with what he said there. Now, I'll get to my gripe with what he said in totality for whatever reason. And I'm genuinely not trying to be political. The movie industry, as a background to what he said subsequently, is struggling with a myriad of factors, I think, affecting the business. The hyper agenda driven inserts in films have really sort of made the audience resent the film making industry or the stars at large or the filmmakers, and it's agitating the audience. Sometimes virtual signaling from the stars, from filmmakers, from other bodies of people within the industries have, rather than telling great stories, they've been predominantly focusing on the politics of it all, or the agenda driven of it all, rather than simply entertaining. And I think audiences are clearly telling the filmmakers, we want entertainment now, we don't want just a bombardment of things that are wrong with the world and fixing the ills of the world. And there is a place for that, definitely, and shouldn't. The point is, I don't think you should do one or the other. I think you should be able to do both. And currently, or the recent output has been focused predominantly on sort of almost pointing out in things wrong with the world, or certain things wrong with certain demographics and or things anyway, whatever, without getting too much into it. But that's been its MO. And currently, Hollywood struggling with the economical demands of California, seemingly affecting its studio's output, with a few moving out of California, moving state, struggling with the demands that overinflated budgets have put on it, and the production staff have put on it, and certain people that need to be hired to make things work. And that's why you see so many productions moving out of clearly Hollywood or America at large and moving to places like where I'm from England, because they can seemingly offer a better budget reduction. And Trump, obviously, for the president himself, is going to try and fix it with the tariffs in predominantly, to try and G up studios to make stuff in America again, therefore giving jobs, therefore giving an economical boost, and so have you. So that's where they are. But it means the films, with those budgets, the films have to make an absolute killing in order to make one iota of profit. And this brings us to where he is being compared to another recent target of online comments, which is Rachel Zegler, which I know is a name that's not particularly popular online, but we'll get into it. So I think it's widely acknowledged that she pretty much anti-propaganded the Snow White film that she was in recently this year, alienating any potential casual audience with similar comments that she made last year, combined with dunking on the original, coming across as quite callous towards the fandom at large, or the Disney fandom, and almost coming across like she was doing them a favour rather than the opposite. And it was her comments about the president predominantly, I think, at the back end of last year when he was elected, that really took the cake. And in a nutshell, that's your lead star of your potential money-making film that you need to make a profit on, telling at least half, if not more, of the population of the America not to come to the film if you disagree with them politically. And we've seen this a few times over the years, but I think it's becoming more and more fervent that audiences are not just going to show up. They're gonna cherry pick which ones they go to. So if you've got a lead star of a film saying to the audience, I don't agree with you in any way, and I wish ill on you, or whatever she said, that's a problem, a really big problem, and the film suffered as a result. And I think it lost a lot of money for Disney in the end. Not even going to get into the other controversies around that film, but predominantly with what she said in relation to what Pedro Pascal. Back to him, he's going to be in at least 3 films for Disney coming out in the next year: Fantastic Four this July, Doomsday next summer, and The Mandalorian and Grogu next summer as well. And this is a time when Disney, seemingly not doing very well in all metrics of their businesses, could really do with some hits at the box office and engender more fan goodwill going into their cinematic releases and projects at large. So, selfishly, me, a fan of the MCU, defender of them, and some of the hate that the franchise gets, especially nowadays, they really didn't need this. It is an active deterrent to audiences, especially casual ones, to reject giving that Fantastic Four First Steps film a go. A reason for the memes and the online hate to target him personally, and as the lead actor of the film, and certainly the biggest star, I think, by default, the film itself, to receive a sort of stay away notice to people, to fans, it's really aggravating as a fan from afar who doesn't really. I don't dislike Pedro at all, but why would you engender the film with such a negative cloud from seemingly out of nowhere? Like, he wasn't. It's quite frustrating. Why say it? His response to the migration question, I'll leave that alone, because, like I said, he has a personal experience to that. So each to their own. And his response was actually quite diplomatic and quite measured. The response to the questions about artists, actors, the film industry being censored potentially and telling them to go F themselves, that's needlessly aggressive. I know he has a point, and I know he probably cares quite fervently about being able to speak your mind and so forth. And there, honestly, yes, 100%. But if we are talking about mass entertainment projects, and if that was what he wasn't doing, if he was solely doing indie projects or what have you, say whatever you want. I get that, but there was no need to be so aggressive with that response. There are ways of getting that point across without alienating people who you don't agree with. So I just think, come on. There's part of me that says you reap what you sow, and then another part that says, you know what, in this world, we don't have to agree with each other wholeheartedly about everything. And instead of simply saying, look, I disagree with the president about his policy on whatever, blah, 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 or how about saying, I would hope that the stories are overblown slightly, or I would like to know more, or I'd love to have a conversation with him about it. There's ways of answering that question without saying, do you know what, anyone who doesn't agree with it, go F themselves. What is that? So, in a nutshell, to conclude as well, I'm really looking forward to Fantastic Four this summer. I think it's going to be a really good film. I think all the signs are there that it's going to deliver on what I want as a fan. And hopefully it's further evidence that Marvel and Disney are righting the ship from some of their recent sort of, I wouldn't say blunders, but definitely controversies and lack of quality, which I've talked about in previous videos as well. The focus has not been on quality, it's been on other issues that I think they're trying to right. And the frustrating thing think about all the people who work on these productions, all of them. Can't obviously all agree with Pedro or with other people, but their hard work gets diminished or reduced because of the reaction to things like this and people not going to see it, and it's considered a flop, therefore you worked on a flop. I think it's just a bit selfish to go into a press conference and deliver something like this. As a fan, it's so frustrating to hear people attacking something before they've seen it anyway. Like I said, they write things off online quite regularly, like, oh, this is going to be rubbish because in recent years it's been because so-and-so is involved in it. And here you go, you get Pedro added to the list of people who people are going to rally against now. And he's done it to himself, and therefore he's going to affect the film in a negative way. congratulations, we're going to have another potential flop on our hands, and further evidence from people online that go, further evidence that Marvel's lost it, or Disney doesn't know what they're doing, or they just focus on political issues. And I don't know if that's the case. I just find it frustrating for entertainment to be used in political forums anyway. It is frustrating to constantly rally against sort of toxic and political things, as well as everything else in the world, and it really does depress you to see the state of the world currently with so much negativity. I know what social media and YouTube is about, and I know that the negative always outweigh the positive in terms of the headlines or the clickbait or what have you, and I get it, but I guess to sum up, everyone should and needs to do better, including Pedro Pascal, especially Pedro Pascal, because he's someone who's in the public eye, and almost promoting negativity is not the way to go. And I worry that the Fantastic Four film is now going to suffer as a result, because the lead actor has just sort of almost, declared, on fans who don't agree with him. Similar comments to what was made last November by a certain Rachel Zegler, and the Snow White film benefited as a result, didn't it? Anyway, rant over. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you agree with me or you disagree with me. Always happy to have discussions and conversations, genuinely. This is a probably slightly controversial one to cover, but I really wanted to cover it because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the MCU. I'm a fan of even projects that the MCU is regarded as sort of not great or meh. And so I'd love to discuss the points that were raised genuinely. And I only want sort of good things, and I don't see good things from what Pedro said, and it is self-inflicted and it's frustrating. So please leave me a like and subscribe, and take care. I'll see you next time. Thank you.